Good morning, Maine South. I hope you've all had 2 great days as we start off this school year. Walking the halls has been fantastic. It's great to see you back, enthusiastic. Great to see the kids upbeat and ready to go. Today they got to sleep in a little late while you are once again up early doing some hard work in your PLTs. The reason I wanted to talk to you this morning is to set the pace for what we're going to be doing this year in our PLT work. One of the things that I can say that I now have from the district level is some very clear, distinct timelines and targets for us to hit related to PLT. If you've read some works about PLT, Dufour and others, you'll notice there is something missing that unfortunately or fortunately, depending upon how you look at it, is something that we do need to follow. In none of the works are you going to find this idea of a hard and fast timeline. And as I've said before, when you get involved with PLT, you might not need to have a timeline when you're a single high school district located in Lincolnshire. However, we're not. We have 3 high schools. We have expectations that those 3 schools are progressing at the same rates on this particular work around curriculum design, and also getting to a point where we're collecting student data for the use in the classroom by the teacher to adjust instruction in a timely manner so that we can ensure each and every student is learning to their highest potential. So to that end this year, and I rolled this out, you probably don't remember, and if you don't, I don't blame you, last year a 4-year plan. And so what I'd like to do now is take you through what that 4-year plan looks like, the things that we need to accomplish, things that will be acceptable as meeting those goals. In the next few frames, we'll work through that so that you have as clear a picture as possible as where we're headed as a district, where we're headed as a building, and your department chair will then take you through what does that real curriculum design look like so that we can meet those targets laid out for us by district. Now, a question you need to have answered, because it's one I would be asking if I were you, is real simple. Sean, what have we been doing for 3 years? Well, what you've been doing is true PLT work, and that work has been fantastic. So this work moving forward is not saying, well, we're going to put aside everything you did before. It's not. In fact, everything you've done before is incredibly important to completing the framework and the templates that we've been asked to complete. Now, I know that we are not fully complete in all courses built out to the level that we'll be asked to do. But one, I think this 4-year framework is doable. I think it's something we can easily achieve. And 2, the work that you've done for 3 years is work that's going to be basically cut and pasted into some of these frameworks. Now, you won't have all of the work completed, but you'll have a lot of it, depending upon the course and how far your team has gotten over the last 3 years. What we now have, though, is that clear target. What you have from me and the administrative team is a commitment to help everybody get it done. So you'll see us around more this year. In fact, the 12-year administrators or 12-month administrators will be out working with specific PLTs to support you through the process. One of the things that I know I haven't done a great job with is being a great PR man for Maine South. We need to be able to be out in there in the PLTs really understanding the hard work that you do every day. And we know it's hard work, and we know it's great work because we have the results that prove that. But what that will enable us to do is to really talk up the food chain, if you will, about each and every one of you, the great work that we're engaged in, and the cool things you're doing in the classroom, and the cool things your teams are coming up with that all kids will have as an experience when they go through Maine South. That's important. It's important for you and it's important for me, because on opening day I talked about sometimes not getting the respect maybe we deserve or the attention that we should get as a fantastic school. And part of the process of making that happen is also making sure that I talk about it in a way that ensures people know just how great we are. And so at that, I'm going to walk through a few more slides. You can just watch and listen, and then we'll throw it over to your department chair to talk more in-depthly about the curriculum design framework. So let's start with the end in mind. The end of this four-year plan will be the school year 2017-2018. And if you take a look at this slide, you'll see revise, refine, reorganize. But the key term that's on this slide is what's in all caps, based on data. This process that we're about to go through really is a data-driven process that's going to help us in the long run meet a few of the goals that we need to meet as a district, not just a building. So let's take a quick look at what we're going to be doing this year, year one of the four-year plan, 2014-2015. This year's work will be ensuring that we have the proper foundation in place to build for the next 4 years. The process that we'll take a look at is just a process to ensure that PLTs have unwrapped Common Core standards, that they've identified some power standards, that they're ready to complete the course design framework, which is the template that we'll refer to a little bit later in this presentation, and that at the end of this year, the PLT has completed the course framework for 2 units, which consists of common learning objectives, common summative assessments, and common formative assessments. But let me be clear on a point. You can have as many formative assessments as you like as an individual teacher, but what you want to do is pick 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever number the team feels is accurate that you have in common, so that you can help identify where students are before they complete the summative assessment. Now looking ahead at year 2 of the plan, school year 2015-2016, we're moving from having 2 units completed to having all units completed. So a common learning objective, common summative assessments, common formative assessments for all units that the PLT team teaches. And we want to begin to analyze the data from the first 2 units that you developed in year 1 in order to do what we need to do to ensure that students are learning, whether that's some revisions to the things that we've developed, further differentiation, or maybe how do we best utilize RTI to help those students who just aren't getting it. So let's take a look at year 3, 2016-2017. At this point, the thought is you've been reflecting upon the work that you've done and the classes you've taught over the course of the last 2 years, and now that you've lived what you've created, it's time to really analyze and see what do we need to tweak or change to the whole, because we've maybe identified that we need some better questions, or maybe our assessment isn't quite the way we want it. Maybe it's not really telling or assessing what we think it is. And that's really all about looking at student data in year 3. The other piece that might be happening in year 3 is that if you've been working in a PLT group and have not really been working on maybe 1 or 2 of the subjects you teach, such as Singleton, for example, maybe something like contemporary authors, that you'd be wrapping back around now that you're well versed in the framework and making some assurances that that course now is getting built out using the curricular design framework and ensuring that common formative and summative assessments are being used and that they're really solid. Again, if you're a Singleton, that's easy to do because they're your formatives, they're your summatives. And so a lot of that might just be completing the template for the course as it currently stands. So again, finally, in year 4 and the completing of the cycle, it's this cycle here that will repeat itself into the future. What we're doing, hopefully, in year 4, which is the revising, the refining, the reorganizing of units, objectives, learning targets, as we get information from the students. As you can see, as I said, the capitalized letters there, based on data. That's the revision process. That gets us kind of back into that real pure PLT model of constantly looking at student work and constantly asking ourselves the 4 questions related to PLT work. Now that's not that we've given up on that or given up on that structure moving forward. You're still going to do that. That's still going to be a natural process and what you do with PLT. However, there will be more emphasis moving forward to ensure that we build out the curriculum framework so that we are producing what district would like to see. More to come in just a minute on that. So I think we have two things that are very, very important to seeing us through with success. First is we've got a game plan. And so there's a plan in place that we're going to work over the next 4 years to ensure we produce a product that is acceptable, but not only acceptable, I know it's going to be fantastic because that's what we do. Also, we're going to have the teamwork we need. We're all in it together, moving forward to ensure that the support is there from administration and from teacher to teacher so that we get the work completed on time and in the way that we need to be able to present it to district. So the graphic or template or framework, whichever you'd like to call it, that I've been referencing is what you see on the screen right now. As you can see, it's a stepped process for which we have developed templates for each of the steps in the process to help guide you along to ensure that you're meeting the expectations, that the PLT is meeting the expectations, so that that chart can get filled in. Now, the nice part about this, I think, for everyone is that as I go through, you'll see that you may have done this for quite a few of your units, if not all of your units, already in the last 3 years. This is where that hard work comes back. And some of it might just be filling in that template. But as you do, what we're asking you to do is just simply really take a hard look at it and ensure it's exactly the way that you want it. So if you were to walk through this template, and those of you who did some summer curriculum work have already been through this process, you'll notice steps A and B, pretty standard. It's your Common Core state standards or your national standards, whatever it is that you have in your discipline, and then identifying some power standards, those things that have leverage that we know we can do with validity. Because the fact of the matter is, if we tried to teach every standard that exists within our disciplines, we'd have kids in school for 20 years, and we know that's just not a reality of ours. Step C is designing that framework based upon a progression of skill and content. So it's just saying, okay, if this is what we're going to teach, how does that look over the course of our entire course? How does that play out? Step D is coming up with the unit objectives, and as we said in the green side of this chart, that's what needs to be done by the end of year 1, and then by the end of year 2 for it to progress through to the blue side of the chart there that you see. There's no magic number of units, so don't think that you have to have every single one of those filled in. It's whatever you believe is necessary to accomplish what you set out to do in steps A, B, and C. So you've already done a lot of that work last year. When we talked about unit objectives, or what I called unit learning targets, which, by the way, never call them that again. We're standardizing the vocabulary. But when I asked you to really look at that and say, okay, what are the big takeaways? What are those I can statements? That's what you were doing. So many of you will be able to plug those right in. We'll do a little assessing to make sure they're good, give you a little feedback on that to make sure they're where you want them to be. But many of you will be plugging those in step D. In steps E, F, and G, that's really the development of the common assessments, both summative and formative. As I said before, the summative should be the same, and you should be picking some common formative assessments so that there's a place to really take the temperature of how kids are doing in that course as a whole across the building. And then lastly, step H, that's really your lesson planning book. You know, what are the daily learning targets? What are the things that you do? What are the combinations of strategies and activities you use to get at those learning objectives? So your daily lessons, your daily learning targets, nest up into your unit objectives, which then nest up into the bigger standards that you say are important and the state says are important for students to know in the course that they're taking with you. Eventually, you've heard me talk about the possibility of having some of this stuff online and on a website. The things that would be out there for the world to see would be steps A through D. You could pull up your subject. So if you're teaching, for example, American government, and you click on that, you'd be able to see steps A through D. E, F, and G are for the team, and H is for you in the classroom to share with the team as you see fit when that conversation arises in the PLT. So that's it in a nutshell of what we're going to be asking you to do this year in your PLTs. The images on this page represent the great tradition of Maine South. We talked about this on opening day. We get it done. We do a fantastic job. We've got great kids and great staff. There's no disputing that. And so when it's time for us to come together to get this work done, we're going to do that. We're going to do it better than anybody else. We're going to celebrate it. We're going to make sure that people know that we are Maine South and what that means to be here and what our curriculum means, not only to us as individuals, but to our students. And so with that, let me give you back over to your department chairs who are going to talk more with you about the templates used to complete our curriculum design framework. So thanks, and we'll be out supporting you very soon in the PLTs.